All right, so I would like to go over substitution and elimination one more time before our test before spring break. So I'm going to go over substitution first. Substituting is where you have to get either X or Y all by itself. Once you get X or Y by itself, then you will substitute it into the other equation. Now, you want to look for an easy substitute or an easy variable to isolate. So if I look at my first equation, I would pick y. The reason why is because y has 1 as the coefficient, and all I would have to do is subtract 5x to get it alone. If I look at my second equation, I would isolate x, again, because it has a coefficient of 1, and all I have to do is subtract 3y. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to isolate x. So in order to get x all by itself, like I said, I have to subtract 3y, and I need to subtract 3y from both sides. So on the left side, all I have is an x because 3y minus 3y is 0. On the right, -2 and -3y are not like terms, so we cannot actually subtract them. So I'm going to have -2 minus 3y. So x equals -2 minus 3y. Now is where you get to the substitution part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take what x equals. Again, that's -2 minus 3y, and I'm going to plug that in for x in the other equation. So instead of 5 times x, I'm going to have 5 times -2 minus 3y. And the parentheses, and then I write the rest of the equation. I have plus y equals -24. When you substitute, you should only have one variable. So if I look back, I have one variable. That variable is y. Perfect. Now I'm going to use the distributive property and go and multiply. You have 5 times -2. That's -10. When I multiply 5 times the 3y, I need to realize that that is a subtraction sign, or we can look at it as a negative sign in front of it. So I'm going to bring down that subtraction sign, and 5 times 3y is 15y. So it's like a -15y right there. And then I continue writing the equation. I have plus y, I have equals -24. At this point, now I can combine like terms. When you combine like terms, you combine them on the same side first, and you always check to see what the sign is in front because it tells you if it's positive or negative. That 15y has a subtraction sign in front, therefore it's negative. So you're doing -15y plus y. So -15 plus 1 is -14. I'm going to bring down that -10, and I have equals -24. Now, -10 and 24, or -24, are like terms, but they're on the opposite side. That means I need to make this -10 a 0 over here to bring it to the other side. So I would do the opposite, and I would add 10 to make it 0. What you do on one side, you must do on the other. -10 plus 10 is 0. I still have -14y. And that's going to equal -24 plus 10 is -14. I would divide by -14, and I find out that y equals 1. So there's one of my answers. You're going to take the y equals 1, and now you're going to plug it into the opposite equation. My opposite equation was x plus 3y equals -2. So instead of x plus 3y, it's x plus 3. The y is 1, so I'm going to plug in a 1, equals -2. 3 times 1 is 3. I'm going to bring, it's a positive 3. Bring down that x equals -2. In order to get x by itself, I'm going to have to subtract 3. You got to do the opposite. And -2 minus 3 is -5. So I just found out that x equals -5. Because we have an x and y, we can write it as an ordered pair. X goes first, y goes second, and we are done. We have solved our problem. So that is substitution. With a problem like this, you don't have to do substitution. You can do elimination instead. They are just different ways to figure out how many solutions. But no matter what, you can do either one of these and you will get the same answer. But with elimination, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a different one. So when you are doing elimination, you have to have the same coefficient or the opposite coefficient. And the coefficient is the number in front of the variable. So you're looking at the same variable. So if I was looking at x, I would need the same number. Well, I have a 2 and a 3. They're different numbers. Now I'm going to look at the y. I have a 3 and a 5. They're different numbers. This is when you multiply. So I could look for my least common multiple, 2 and 3. Your least common multiple, 6. So I can multiply to get 6x. I could also look at the y. 3 and 15 has a least common multiple. 3 and 5 have a least common multiple of 15. So I can multiply to get 15y as well. I'm going to go ahead and multiply to get the 6x since the x is out in front. So 2 times 3 gives you 6. That means you're multiplying the whole first equation by 3. So I'm going to do 3 times 2x. Well, that's 6x. 3 times 3y. That's 9y. 3 times 26. Well, 3 times 6 is 18. That's 78 altogether. Then the second one, you're going to go ahead and multiply by 2 because 3 times 2 is 6. You would get the 6x again. 2 times 5y is 10y. And 2 times 40 is 80. All right, now you have to decide whether you add or subtract. The 6x is the same coefficient. So I'm making a 0. I have to eliminate my x. You got to make it a 0. So you could add or subtract. Well, if I added, 6x plus 6x is 12x. That would not help us. If I subtracted, 6x minus 6x is 0. So we're going to have to subtract. When you subtract, you are subtracting each like term individually. So I am doing 6x minus 6x, which is that 0 that we want. I'm doing 9y minus 10y. Well, that's a negative 1y. And I'm doing 78 minus 80. That's negative 2. Now, I don't want to know what negative y is, so I have to divide or multiply by negative 1. And y ends up being 2. At this point, now I can plug 2 in, but I want to plug it into one of the original equations. It doesn't matter which one. I'll use 2x plus 3y equals 26 just because it's up on the top. And instead of y, I'm going to plug in a 2. So it's 3 times 2 instead of 3 times y. 3 times 2 is 6. I want to get 2x by itself, so I have to subtract the 6. So 2x equals 20. Then I have to divide, not by x, by 2. Sorry, you divide by the number, you divide by the coefficient. Divide it by 2. X equals 10. So our answer for the second equation, again, we have an x and y. X goes first, y goes second. So our answer is 10, 2. So just to recap, on any of these equations, you could use substitution or you could use elimination. Just know that with elimination, you have to have the same coefficient to do it. Sometimes you have to make it through multiplication. If you have the same sign with the same coefficient, they're both positive or they're both negative, you're going to add. You're going to subtract. It's been a long day. If you have opposite signs with the coefficient, now you're going to add. Same side, subtract, opposite, add. You get to pick which method you like.